Most war movies are either nationalistic, kind of glorified action reels, or just vehicles for like American exceptionalism a lot of the time. Warfare strips all that away. It doesn't care about making you feel proud. It kind of wants you to feel uncomfortable. This isn't your typical war movie. Let's get into why it's not just another war movie. It's something else entirely. This was co-directed by Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza. Ray Mendoza is a former Navy SEAL who his real life experience from Iraq during the Iraq War in 2006, this takes place. That forms the backbone of the story. And Warfare drops you sort of headfirst like into the chaos of this mission that kind of goes sideways in Iraq. There's no backstories for characters. There's no emotional flashbacks. There's really nothing like any of that. You're just in the dirt with these guys. You're hearing gunfire, the cracks of, distant fire coming at these guys, the ragged breathing, the frantic comms, and like you kind of just feel like you're there with them. And I think that's what the movie was meant to be, of just, you're just there, like with these guys. Not you're watching it, you're there, you're with it. And I mentioned earlier, I wish I could have seen this in theaters because the sound design really sells that. It's crazy.
I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. I don't feel like there's anything unique about this war movie except that it is told strictly through the stories of the people that lived through it. So that's fascinating in that it hasn't been Hollywoodized per se, but at its foundation, it's really, like you said, it's just about being there in what happened and the chaos of it. But it doesn't really do a whole lot for me in the way of war movies and what you want from a war movie. I think it was great in what it did, but if you've seen 100 more war movies, it feels like somebody's tried to show this at one point or another in a war movie. Just maybe not the whole movie in its entirety. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, no, it does.
I like a little more storytelling in a war movie than just like the essence of it, because that gets a little like, we're getting tired of watching John Wick movies, even because it's pistol action for 50 minutes and
yeah,
it's 20 minutes of character building. You know what I'm saying?
Gun fu, yeah.
Good movie, not a great movie.
What comes to mind for me about when you hear a war movie, right? It's like you get like the heroic character arcs, you get like emotional speeches, usually the American victory tropes, swelling music, slow motion, death scenes, like shit like that. And for me, that structure just doesn't work anymore. Like I'm over it. Like I think in modern day, since all of us have witnessed a 20-year war, and now like a fucking active genocide and more war and more war, it gets harder and harder to be like, well, America's the good guys. And so when when war movies always propagandize and are always about like, well, America's the good guys, it's just so difficult for me to even like watch something like that. Like I'm thinking like Lone Survivor, 13 Hours, like those movies that really fucking show America as like the virtuous arbiters of good, because we just aren't. And that's something, again, people have to like deal with. It's just the facts, right? I think there was also another thing during like the 2000s, like since the war on terror has been going on, I think a lot of movies have been used almost as like a recruitment tool for the military.
Yeah.
I don't even mean that to be funny. I think like that was like really like an effort on the part of it, whether it be our government or probably, I mean, obviously the government, but like a lot of movies like just glorify what it means to be in the military. And I just don't really buy any of that.
Well, I haven't seen a lot of war movies, but I thought it was pretty good. I don't really have a good frame of reference to say if it brought anything new to the genre, but overall, I definitely enjoyed it. I like the localized point of view where it was like showing how something that looks so simple can quickly just turn into a disaster. Just simple things like how they're fighting for air support, and like you can't just simply get out of Dodge when things get sketchy.
Right.
I thought the progression was pretty good. Like the way it ramped up was pretty good. Showing like how the captain kind of just fell all apart when, the team needed him to kind of stay together the most. He kind of just lost it. Yeah, I thought it was good though. Honestly, I thought it was pretty good.
You mentioned like what it brings to the genre. I don't think it brings anything in. I think it takes things away, and that's kind of what I thought it worked about it.
Oh, right. I get that. Yeah.
I guess in a sense it is bringing something new to the genre in that it's not doing the typical like narrative stuff of a movie would normally do. I've seen some reviews of people talking about how like they didn't like it because of that. There was no real conclusion to the character development. There was no character development. There was no music. There's no story. There's really nothing. It's just these guys in a skirmish from start to finish is kind of like what it kind of boils down to.
I think that's a good, like,
Yeah.
most adults know
It's raw.
about the Iraq War, and like there there still really hasn't been a resolution, really. Like it
No.
was a never-ending war, and it's like still ongoing. So it's like, to me, it
Well-
was kind of perfect that it was like no conclusion, because there hasn't been a conclusion even in real life. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this movie exemplifies really well how like seconds could feel like minutes, minutes can feel like hours.
Yeah.
Like is especially in a wartime scenario, because they're all just sitting around and they're bored, and then shit starts popping off, and then it's crazy, and you see how some of them react to the situation they're in, and how some of them don't react, and you know how some of them are getting fucked up. But
Yeah.
you're sitting there and you're watching this guy scream for like 5 minutes straight, and you're like, okay, he's done screaming, and then the other guy wakes up, and then he's screaming for like 5. You're like, all right, we're doing this.
It's very visceral.
The agonizing length of it is, I think, it's a little grating when you're watching a movie like that, but I think it's supposed to be. So
It really like delivered
yeah,
on what it was trying to do, of just that visceral, like, this is what war is. It's kind of what like Civil War was. Everybody criticized Civil War because it wasn't the thing that they wanted it or expected it to be, which was everybody wanted it to have an opinion. Everybody wanted the Civil War to be a reflection of our current state in the United States, of like right versus left, fucking whatever the fuck.
Oh yeah, my side's gonna be the good side in that movie. I just know it.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted Civil War to have a message. And some people, I think, wanted this movie to have that pro-war message or an anti-war message, but it doesn't.
there is a message, though, if you have a brain. I feel like
What do you think it is? Like,
clearly sympathize with the people that are getting their home invaded, their whole life uprooted, their neighborhood destroyed.
Yep.
Like, if you don't sympathize with those people, I don't really understand how that's possible.
I agree with you. I think the movie, one of the only weaknesses of this movie for me is that I think the movie did a little bit too much focus on like the suffering of the American soldiers.
Right.
You are an empathetic human being with a brain. So you are naturally being like, oh, I feel sorry for the people whose homes are being invaded and uprooted and all this stuff. But the movie doesn't really show that in any specific way, because the central focus is on these soldiers. It was my only real
or the use of the
It shows it
local
enough.
police or military that they used as bullet shields.
And how
They're like,
expendable
you guys
they
go
were.
out first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like,
that
what
was
the fuck?
terrible.
Like, what
Yeah.
the fuck? They're sending us out to die, basically?
They want us to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they showed it enough. I don't know how much they could have showed it more without giving like too much story of like, oh my God, these people have lives too. Like, we know, like, as a human being, you should know that these people have
Of course.
a life. The kids are right there with them. And so it's like,
Yeah.
and then at the end, when they show like they just leave all the waste and destruction and the limbs and blood and everything's destroyed, it's like,
Yeah.
I think he showed enough.
Again, there's that criticism of the movie that there's not really any story or plot or character arcs, but when it ends, you're right. There is it's pretty apparent that the Iraqis and the American soldiers are both left with like a trauma, when like everything suddenly stops and the violence ends or whatever. I'm hoping that because of this movie, the days of like entertainment-based war films are kind of over, because more movies, I think, should be like this, that make people think about the more nitty-gritty details and sort of what soldiers and civilians are left to deal with.
Even in like non-factor, like we don't even know why they were there, but
yeah,
it just shows you how real it gets, even if it's not like, oh man, we're saving the president. It's like, no, these guys are just posted up doing God knows what, but it's just everything gets fucking destroyed. People die, people lose legs.
Yeah.
It's like, shit is terrible.
And I could totally understand the criticisms of it not having like traditional elements of a film or story, and totally understand that. I think this movie is really, really good. From a filmmaking perspective, I would kind of call it a masterpiece, if I'm being honest. Like cinematography, sound design, all that stuff. I think it's like really, really well done.
To me, I don't know. It doesn't need, every person, like you said, doesn't have to have a backstory. Like he has
Mhm.
It's just be implied that he has family.
Of course,
He's
exactly.
a human being. Like,
Right,
you
exactly.
don't need to see that.
Right.
Like, if you just think about it, you don't have to like
Yeah. And that's what I
be
really
put
like
into your
about it.
feels. Like,
Right.
you know,
Like you watch
it's
a movie like
simple.
American Sniper, one of the most propaganda-driven movies I think I've ever seen, of this guy, Chris Kyle, who is like notably a piece of shit from like most people who have been around him, but he's portrayed as this fucking hero, and like he was a hero, and like he has a wife, and he does this and he does that, and he was tragically killed by somebody who was obsessed with him at the shooting range. Like, I don't give a fuck about that guy or any of that stuff. Like, this is a human story, I think, to me. Like you're saying, it's not about the Iraq war. It's not about why we were there. It's not about jihadists that we're fighting. It's not about really any of that stuff. It's purely about human beings and how all human life, or all life in general, is affected by this type of bullshit. At the end of the day, any loss of life in war is a failure. It's a failure of diplomacy. It's a failure of leadership. It's a failure of humanity. And the movie doesn't really shy away from that truth, in my opinion. It kind of holds you and just is like, look at what we do to each other. Like, this is fucking nonsense. That's kind of my takeaway.
I don't know how many of these I could sit down and watch one after the other. I mean, I don't know if I feel like, you know, if they made 10 more of these and they were all equally the same. Yeah, but that's like Dan saying that, well, I hope that we go away from this and more to this is, I think there's a good place for traditional war movies where somebody, you know, you want to root for the hero and against the villain, whereas in this is more of a practical, like, this is what warfare is. This is the reality of warfare. It fucking sucks. I get that, but if every war movie was like this,
then they're all the same.
War movies would go the way of the dodo, I think.
I could understand that. I guess what I meant more when I said that is like, not exactly like this. This kind of just felt like documentary footage almost, but like, I mean, more of like the non-propagandized, like American exceptionalism bullshit.
After seeing this, I would be okay with not seeing any war movies ever again.
Yeah,
just because
I kind of agree.
Like, it's enough. Enough is enough. I mean, enough wars in real life is enough too. Like, let's get away from wars.
And this did the thing that I think it wanted to do, and I think it did it really well. Very unforgettable, I think, for that reason. I would have loved to see it in the theater. I got to repeat that because the sound design alone is very, very immersive. It doesn't really, the movie again just doesn't show you war. It like makes you feel it.
But I think it did a good job of telling a story without having a story.
Absolutely.
That makes sense. Like,
you see that there's a couple of them that are getting and giving the reports, and they're starting to, with their own actions, act a little bit more alert and nervous because they feel like something's about to pop off and go down. Yeah. But that doesn't filter through the whole unit because not everybody's paying attention. Right. So it doesn't need to be said with exposition. You're absolutely right.
So I loved it. It's got a 7.2 on IMDb, mostly positive reviews. I'm going to bump that up. I would give it a 9. I'm not giving it a 10 because there's no rewatchability for me, but I would give it a 9. I think it was mostly pretty perfect.
I think even though it doesn't have any rewatchability, the feelings it evokes, and I'll probably give this a 10.
Okay, great. Big numbers, big numbers. What you got, Dusty?
I think the IMDb trolls got it pretty much right on this one. I feel like this is a 7 from me.
7's a good rating, though.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, because 9 is the highest I'll get, so it's still up there. Like I said, it's a good movie, but
No, I feel you. You're more of a traditionalist with the war movies. I get it. Our society, with the amount of information we have access to and stuff, like most people are woke, for lack of a better word. We've woken up to the fact that like war is just a fucking chess game from billionaires and investment firms and fucking corporations to just make a buck.
The state.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's all about the state.
Yeah. So great movie. Check it out, folks, if you haven't done so already, but check it out with a warning. There's a warning tag on there. This is a rough movie to watch. It's not fun and it's not enjoyable. But I think definitely worth a watch for sure. Blast your TV when you watch it because the sound design is really, really good.